The battle to save your marriage isn't about rebuilding trust, fixing communication, or even healing resentment. Yes, those things are important and you should master the skills to achieve them. However, none of that matters if you don't convince your wife that you have changed. Imagine for a second, your wife is locked away in this castle and you come bearing the gifts of intimacy and trust and leadership. And you spend all this time developing them, but when you arrive at the castle, there's this guard. He's new, right? And he just will not let you in no matter what you say. You must somehow convince this guard to step down and allow those gifts to enter into her heart. So in the next few minutes, I'm gonna give you the 5 essential steps that you can use to open up your gifts of love to her. And at the end, I have a powerful concept that the clients I work with say it is their favorite tool that they use to completely switch the dynamic of conflict into corrective conversation. So let's jump in. Now, the first step we have to start at, which you should click away if you don't agree with me on this, is that all the results you have in your life all stemmed from the software that you have, right? Your thoughts, your beliefs. That's why you could have 2 men having the same exact situation, right? But they get completely different results in business, with women, with fitness, with everything, because of the thoughts that they have, right? So I can teach you the right words to say to her. I can handcraft this perfect letter that's gonna probably get her to wanna work on the relationship. But ultimately, down the road, if you didn't learn the actual skills and software changes, the same pattern is just gonna repeat. So I was at this business conference and this amazing speaker, Ed Millett, if you guys actually wanna look him up, he was telling his story about his alcoholic father, right? And how his father would come home and he never knew if his dad was gonna be drunk or sober. And being drunk always led to physical beatings, right? And he got so attuned to understanding how the key went in the door, whether his father was drunk, right? He could smell alcohol from like a lot longer away than most people, or he could see the person just in their gait, the way they walked, right? He became so attuned to other people's emotions. Now, how that translated later in life is that he was very reactive and he was always seeing like how people are reacting to him, which became a superpower in a lot of ways to read people. But the downside of that, it was that he was always reacting. He was never the force of action in his life before he solved this trauma and did a whole software update in his brain. So let's take this idea of these early experiences and how they impact you in the current moment. Now, let's use an example with your wife. Let's take a situation where she wronged you and you are certain when you look back at that event, that betrayal, whatever it is, maybe it's her saying, I want to be done, or move, separate, or not have sex with you. Choose the powerful emotional experience. And I want you to recognize that wisdom is simply a memory without emotion. And having a complete software update to get new results moving forward with her, you have to look at these past events that you encoded into your brain and you attach with emotion, and you have to have a new perspective, because all the miracle is a shift in perception or perspective. And when working through trauma, and yes, little t trauma is these betrayals with your wife, right? Or I mean, for a lot of guys, her saying she wanted a divorce was one of the most traumatic things. And I totally understand if that's where you're coming from. I'm not gonna minimize that for you, okay? But I want you to recognize that your ability to grow and get new results and getting her back and stopping divorce, it's looking at these past events and learning to have a different perspective on it. Use empathy to see why she actually did what she did. Because when you are so mired in your own emotions, you're going into your head and your brain is literally wired to just focus on your own needs, how you're being attacked, how your ego is being damaged and threatened. And you are incapable in those moments to have empathy. And what you need to do in order for her to believe your changes are real is give her that new perspective. Say, yeah, this is why you felt the way you did in that situation. I totally get it now. Now, you can do this on your own, but our coaches specialize in this. We hear your situation, your scenario, what happened with you and your wife, and we say, dude, this is exactly how you should see this. And that simple perspective shift can change everything. On a free call, if you set a call down below with our team. All right, this next essential habit you must do to stop divorce is such a subtle phenomenon that occurs that once you see it, you're gonna be able to see interactions with people completely in a different new light. So let me give you an example of how this happened. I'm gonna do my podcast on the other channel. You guys can check it out. I'm not gonna say which guest because I don't wanna call them out, but one of the guests I was speaking to, every time I would say something that I was doing successful, like, oh, we helped this many guys, we have a lot of successful guys in our program. I wasn't doing it from a boastful position, but every time I said something like that, he would say like he does something boastful too. I was like, oh yeah, I've been a licensed therapist for about 10 years. And he's like, yeah, I've been doing this for about 20 years, like immediately after. And I don't think this is a malicious thing from him. It's not a conscious thing that I think he has. I just think it comes from a subtle, insecure place, okay? Whereas opposed to, let's say, I'll actually call this person out because I had a great conversation with him, Dr. Glover. When him and I were on that podcast together, he was teasing my co-host, making fun of Tom. We were joking, we were having a good time. And there was no like, I have to prove myself. Now, this subtle proving of yourself, showing your value through verbal affirmation is called supplication. And it is paradoxical because in conversations with your wife, if let's say, for example, you joined our program, one of the first questions a lot of guys ask is, should I tell my wife? Well, what's the purpose of telling your wife? If the purpose for telling her is saying, hey, look what I'm doing. I'm being a good little boy. I'm working on the marriage. I'm trying to fight for us. that inherently shows that it's being manipulative. By not telling her and having her just find out you're doing this for your own good, that shows your high value. Let me give you one more example. This one is the most cliche example, but if you're out at a party, right, or some social gathering in the backyard at a barbecue, and you are talking to two other guys, and one guy's teasing you, you guys are just shooting the shit, you have no idea what he does for a living, but you guys are just bonding because he's not even trying, right? He's making fun of you, making fun of him. It's just a good time, right? You're busting each other's balls. But the other guy, he's like, oh, what do you do for work? Oh yeah, I'm a doctor. Yeah, I've been doing practice for like 20 years. Yeah. I just bought a Mercedes the other day. It's my second one, I think. Yeah, we're gonna go to the Bahamas next weekend. Get like a 5-star, like, right? Like, I know that's an extreme example, but you are doing this subtly to her. If you ever try to show her like, hey, look at the chores I'm doing. Look how much weight I lost. Look at I did this for the kids. And you're trying to show that. That's called supplication. And only low status people supplicate, because one person in an interaction and dynamic in any relationship is trying to prove their value to the other, while the other one's more willing to walk away. And so if you are subtly supplicating to her, it is just confirming in her mind that you are being low status. So this is the self-sabotaging cycle. So let's just take an example of how this plays out. It always starts with the criticism. So the criticism is in the external world, right? Looking back to the first point. Now, I will say that usually it's important to say this, that the criticism, it enters through your own software, your own input of not feeling good enough. So if you ever feel like your wife is saying you're not good enough, or you just don't feel good enough, or you say to yourself, I do all these things for her, but it's never enough. She can't make you feel that way. You need to recognize that. That's coming from your own stuff that we're gonna heal. But let's say, okay, you don't feel good enough. That leads you to self-sabotage, because the one thing that influences your behavior more than anything in certain environments is how you see yourself in that environment. As an example, in the workplace, if you crush it, you probably have belief systems like, I'm a competent worker, or this, or work comes easy to me, or I'm amazing at this, or, right? You have all these experiences to justify the beliefs you have that create even better outputs. So with your wife, if you have a history of criticism and disconnect and conflict, of course, it's gonna lower your self-worth, especially if she's seeing someone else, she left you, all those things. Anyways, you'll self-sabotage. You'll do things to make it worse. Then it feeds back into that shame cycle, and then creates more disconnect and isolation between the two of you. And when she feels disconnected and isolated, she's gonna criticize you more, because her criticism is an attempt to actually get closer to her. Her criticism is a request in disguise. She is requesting that you guys fix these things, that you come together and heal it. Because for her, conflict and fighting is better than isolation and disconnection. And a lot of guys kick themselves when they hear this, because they're like, oh my God, so when my wife was actually yelling at me and angry at me, she cared. And a lot of times when she gets to apathy, she no longer does, okay? So this is how this all plays out. Now, you can heal this in so many different ways. You can learn how to overcome your shame working with a therapist or one of our team members. You can know how to respond to a criticism without defensiveness. You can know how to realize the moments of disconnection and create moments of connection. And then of course, overcome self-sabotage. So you can attack this cycle, this self-sabotaging cycle, from any point. And I recommend you do all points, because that will completely eradicate it into the positive. Let's actually do this right here, since I'm already here. Let's get rid of not feeling good enough. So let's just replace the shame and the self-sabotage, because they kind of feed into each other. So with the disconnect and isolation, you can't always control that one fully. And also the criticism, those are external to you. What you can control though is your own stuff. So when she criticizes you, instead of self-sabotaging, you use corrective conversation skills, right? You have corrective conversations with her. That will lead, well, to less shame. It'll lead to love, growth, peace, all the good stuff, right? And so instead of disconnect, you'll have more connection, and then she'll criticize you less. So you can see how the cycle plays out positively if you correct these different components. The fourth essential step is an advanced one. It's called creating congruence. It comes from humanistic psychotherapy, but congruence is the idea that there's a through line of consistency with the man that you say you are and your actions, or there's a through line of consistency with what you say and what you do. And there's a through line of consistency with your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Okay, now let's give examples of each. At the end of the day, what she wants more than anything else is to feel that she can trust you. Now, trustworthiness to a woman, it encompasses emotional safety. It encompasses you being a protector and a provider, the apex male. That allows her to trust you. Trust is the idea that she can relax into her feminine, into you, and love you, and be safe with you, okay? And anytime there is an incongruency in any of those through lines that I talked about, she feels that disconnect, that lack of safety, that lying, that deception, okay? And it all comes from your need to make her happy, because when she's unhappy, you cannot sit with her emotions, right? There are deeper things here as well about why you do what you do, why there's incongruency. Now you can explore that with an expert. This is advanced, but your own personal psyche as to why you do the things you do. But just recognize that this phenomenon occurs, and the goal is to be the man that you say you are, right? That is high value, right? A man that lives through his values, through his purpose, that doesn't lie, that is willing to put himself out there against the herd, right? This is who I am. I'll go against the grain because it's how I naturally feel and what I believe. That's what a real man is, and that's what she needs from you. All right, let's look at this idea of the through line of congruency through the macro identity and micro. So the macro identity is the man that you espouse that you are on a higher level. I am this type of man through your values, your beliefs, and then how that shows up in your habits of what you do. So let's use an example that, let's say as a man, early on in the relationship, you're like, I value ambition. I have so many big goals and dreams for my career. And then over time, she complains that you're not home enough from work, okay? Now she's complaining you're not home enough. Yeah, so you start to sacrifice. You start to come home, right? So your values are ambition, but you start to miss deadlines. You start to not go for promotions, put in extra time to not get promoted because you are upset that she isn't happy with you not coming home. And so your values may be ambition, right? Let's start here with a central point. And let's say you actually believe it too. You're like, I believe that a man should have a higher purpose, right? More than his family. Now that is a controversial statement, but I believe, and also coming straight from David Data's mouth in The Way of the Superior Man, that a man's highest purpose should not be his woman, okay? But in that situation, as a habit, you start coming home earlier to make her happy. And so that is not consistent with your values and your beliefs. There is a disconnect there. There's no consistency, okay? Now, if you watch my videos on tests, you'll see why she does this, okay? Because she wants you actually to be consistent with your values, even if it upsets her. I'll link my test video at the end of this one, okay? And how to pass that and how to really bring up that conversation of actually staying consistent with your values and your beliefs without upsetting her and keeping respect. But let's go to the micro identity next. So the micro identity is a moment by moment congruency in conversation with your emotions, thoughts, and actions. So let's say as an example that you find out she starts talking to a guy from work, and they went on to go get drinks after work. But she swears it was about work. It was about this guy, switching departments, and there's nothing there. And you've known this guy for a long time, but something inside of you just feels off. Now that's not the correct emotion. You probably feel distrustful or frustrated, angry, jealous, envious. You can name all those emotions, but they're not pleasant. Let's go with jealous. Fine, right? And then the thoughts you have start to be like, she's lying, I don't trust her. So these are the thoughts you have, but she tells you about it. You don't want to cause conflict because she's already upset with you. The marriage isn't doing that well. So you kind of bite your tongue. You maybe ask a few questions about the guy, but you try to say it's okay because it's the right thing to do. All the while, she knows, she can intuitively sense you're not okay with this, and thus she loses respect. Now, a lot of guys will see this and they're saying, Josh, like I should be distrustful, I should be jealous? Is that what I should do? No. And that's what the last point is going to talk about. By far the most impactful skill that guys say has completely shifted the tide of their relationship is the idea of responding and not reacting. You see, a boy reacts, a man responds. Reacting is feeling that initial emotion and letting that come out, right? Not having any emotional competence, no control. And whenever in situations where she says she feels something and you are trying to defend, you are trying to prove your point immediately and you blow up or you shut down, right? Or you try to make her feel stupid. You're essentially her bodyguard, you're her protector. And reacting to her in that way is like taking the gun and pointing it at her, okay? That's how she feels. And quite simply, the best skill to have in order to create more ability to respond and not react is meditation. Now, let me read one of my favorite powerful quotes from Viktor Frankl on this concept. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. She is the stimulus. She is the outside world. And when she says something, if you immediately come back with something else, you are being codependent with her. You are not being your own man, okay? You are being a leaf in the wind, right? And in your masculine core, that's not who you are. You need to be the shore. You need to not be feminine. And what happens when you meditate is that stimulus and response, that reaction, there's no space in between. Meditation allows that conscious control. You are creating new neural networks to become a new man, to get a new result, right? It's almost like you're wiping away all the old viruses. It's also like releasing the shame and stuff too, but yeah, the same process occurs when you meditate. You're having more control. You're not jumping on every emotion, every thought, every action that she has. I wanted to give a great bonus concept here for the people who stay to the end, reward you for watching to the very end. So there's this idea that I recently came up with is you need to be her nest, not her cage, okay? I'm going to imagine she's a bird, okay? And she wants to fly around, have freedom, have fun, sing her song, a beautiful song, right? And she needs you to be that nest. Now, if you think of a nest, right? It is a home. It provides safety. It allows the kids to be protected and raised, right? And she helps cultivate you into that. But what can happen over time is if you have controlling nature over her, you become this cage, right? You try to control her, and not just control through your actions, like don't do that, don't do this, wear that. No, I'm talking about control in the sense of manipulating her emotions, gaslighting her, being defensive, telling her that she's wrong, right? That is the cage, right? Changing who you are, not having that congruence, that is a form of manipulation and control from her perspective. And so you must recognize to release that top boundary and to let go a little bit that you can't control her perceptions of you. You can't control what she does, how she feels. You can influence. And as long as you keep that safe base, right? That nest, she will feel safe, but not smothered. And that is the apex. That is the masculine core that you need to become. You know, I was debating with a female friend recently about, she loves guys that are possessive over her, okay? She's like, I love it when a guy's possessive. And we gave an example about how if she was at a party and some other guy was hitting on her, she would want her boyfriend to come over and pick her up and carry her away. And I was like, I would never do that. She's like, why? I was like, that's needy. Like, that's clingy. Like, I want you to respect me enough to where, like, I'm gonna let you do your thing. And if you are going to be disrespectful by flirting with another guy, then clearly you don't respect me, right? And we had a huge debate about this. And at the end of the day, she realized my point. This is the bird nest, by the way, me allowing that, which is holding that center, but not controlling. That is the ultimate form of self-love. Because if she doesn't want to be in your nest, you shouldn't want her there. You see what I mean? So learn to let go of that control, to be your own man, to have your own values, to live through congruency. And that is holding more value than you can ever imagine. All right? If you need help with all that, you know, you can click the link down below to set up a call with our team. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.